and welcome to VIDEODRONE episode 2. This is a podcast about movies and television and other shit we've watched on our little screens that haunt us day and night. My name is Ben Vanel. I'm joined by my co-host Tommy Dasilo. Tommy, how you going this week, my friend?
Oh, good morning, Ben. Look, it's an honour just to be podcasting, and we, as always, after one other episode, joined by Jen Fricker.
Good morning, podcast.
Yes.
Who
yes.
was it? It was Rachel Sennett and someone else who announced the Oscar nominations this year.
Bowen
Bowen
Yang.
Yang, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. You two are the Bowen Yang and Rachel Sennett of this podcast.
That's what I've always said. That's what I've always said. And you're the Oscars.
Yeah,
I am. I'm the
gold
little
man.
gold man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, not pleasantly, with the Oscar nominations. A movie we talked about just last week, Jen, Emilia Perez, most nominated foreign language film, I think, ever, or like
Wow.
equal most, 13 nominations, up there with like Gone with the Wind for just overall. We're living in a hellscape.
What is going on? Yeah, and I similarly had reason to be miffed by the nominations. A complete unknown, terrible week for the complete unknown haters amongst us.
Yeah.
A lot of Oscar noms, and then we got Big Timmy up there on SNL.
Woofa doofa. Oh my God.
We've convinced him that he's funny, and we can't take it back now.
No.
And
But
then
like
he's-
funny, but then sincere at the same
Yeah.
time. Like doing just sincere covers of Bob Dylan
and,
on
like,
SNL.
yeah, I can't, like, why is this happening? Why is he on as the musical guest just playing these Bob Dylan songs after getting into Dylan for playing him in a movie? It's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's really stupid.
And I like that he picks the songs, apparently, like the stories he says
Yeah.
on the stage. And it's like, these are just, you may not know, in the monologue, he's like, you may not know these songs, but these are some of my favorite Dylan songs. It's like, oh, cool, obscure Dylan.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Great.
Like, I just don't get, like, I don't know, SNL as a platform, like, for a new band or whatever, or a band that's kind of popping off, like, why is that musical slot going to something that will just, in a year's time, will just seem like a trivia question? Like, oh yeah, remember that Timothy Chalamet Dylan movie? That was all right.
Yeah.
And then he went on SNL. What was with that? Like,
Whenever I see Timothy Chalamet do anything kind of artsy, like, do you remember at the end of last year, he did that live stream of him dancing to I've Got a Feeling in a gigantic warehouse?
oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
I always think about that. Like, he obviously wants to be an artist. You know, in a way he is, right? But then I'm like, and then he goes home to Kylie Jenner.
Right. There is something about him where I've always felt like when people are really critical of Leo and his penchant for the younger women, it's like, well, we created this. We spent this man's entire life telling him that he's the most beautiful person on the planet. Of course his brain is warped and he has like bizarre standards about like what is attractive and what is appropriate in terms of dating.
He's
and with
probably
Chalamet,
mentally still 15.
Yeah.
He's got
And it's
full-on arrested
fascinating
development.
with Chalamet just kind of like watching that happen in real time. It's like, we are just breaking down this young man when there's like article upon article about how much women are working their bean over this fella. Of course it's
God.
destroying
Men and
him.
women. He's a hot little twink.
Yeah.
That's
Please.
true.
He covers all demos.
Yeah.
They're all covered, and he's got
Four-quadrant horniness.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's got a big agency. He's got a big PR company behind him. Of course, he's playing. What were the obscure Dylan songs that he played on SNL?
I mean, I saw clips. I don't know.
Yeah,
James
they're-
Blake was up there for one of them.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, this will be interesting. Nope.
Outlaw Blues, Three Angels, and Tomorrow is a Long Time.
Okay, they are kind of obscure. Which, again, it's like just fucking play All Along the Watchtower, dude. Like, let's
Did
play
he
the
play
hits.
3 songs, did you say?
I think so, yeah.
Because usually musical guests only play 2 as well.
Yeah, but he's special, Jen. He's Timothy Chalamet.
I mean, I get, like, I don't know. This year's Oscar nominations, you know, people are always like, oh, the Oscars are becoming increasingly irrelevant. Like, it's just voted upon by a bunch of old white people who don't actually, like, have any connection to the industry or, like, what's good or what, like, people, the culture or whatever. And it's like, this year for sure. Yeah. Like,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been the case. But then, when you get something like Amelia Perez where people are being like, this is like outwardly offensive.
Right.
It's like, it's not just like a matter of taste of like, I think that movie kind of sucks. It's just like, this is truly like damaging to an entire culture of people.
yeah. Well, okay. So I would love to know your thoughts on Conclave just like slipping through.
Yeah.
Best film or whatever the fuck? Hold on. Is it in Best Picture? Let me see.
think it
Sorry.
I think so. Yeah. Have you
is.
seen it, Jen?
Yes.
Did you like it? Did I talk
No.
about it on here yet?
I think we talked about it a little bit. I was kind of saying, so Conclave is nominated for Best Picture alongside Anora the Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked.
Wicked being on there is insane, but anyway.
Well, okay. I feel like Wicked has more right to be there than fucking Amelia Perez does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also-
Like, in terms of a
Yeah.
musical,
Good,
that
right?
makes sense. At least it has that going for it.
yeah.
They're always going to nominate the biggest film of the year now, basically. Like, that's why there's the expanded list of Best Picture noms. It's like, Wicked made billions of dollars. That's got to be on there.
Conclave getting nominated, though, I'm like, that is truly the equivalent of nominating the Da Vinci Code. You know, like, that is...
I really liked it, and I can see it. I mean, it is just like
It's an airport novel.
it's a film. It's like it's a movie. It's like an
Yes.
old boy movie. Bunch of old boys in it acting their fucking asses off. Like, it's real kind of like, feels very 90s. It's kind of it is one of those things that feels like it was made just to attempt to scoop the awards. I did really like it, but it's definitely like,
I
had a good
enjoyed
time at the
it.
cinema, but it doesn't really have that staying power of just like,
I enjoyed it in this same way. Like, again, I enjoyed the Da Vinci Code. Like, it's
Yeah.
fun. Like, it's a popcorn movie, but it's not like... I just think sometimes Americans hear foreign accents and they're like, oh, this is cinema. And it's like, no, this is
Right.
just like
I
people
definitely
outside of
think-
America.
And anyone wearing the robes of the deacon, any shit with the Pope, any papal fucking Vatican stuff. I really liked it as well. And I feel maybe it has the Amelia Perez like disease of like, we've wedged in a current transgressive topic and handled it really poorly, and like, it's done really trivially in Conclave. And I feel like, maybe it's got the same thing of like, okay, well, I guess we don't want to get in trouble, so we'd better nominate this movie that has these like social progressive topics. But didn't get nominated for Best Direction, which is interesting. I guess that's a smaller list, but then like, I love Dune Part 2, and I'm happy that it's got nominated, but it is that weird thing of like, 30 years ago, a movie like Dune Part 2 is getting nowhere near the Oscars.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
so
yeah,
interesting.
it's that weird thing where, and we talked about this with the Game Awards on Filthy recently, like having like just the best overall thing, and then you have like Wicked is up against Conclave, is up against Dune Part 2. It's like, these may as well be 3 different forms of media. Like, the idea that they're all
Right.
competing in the same overall thing, they're such different things that fulfill different needs that are, to have them to say like, oh yeah, Wicked is better than Conclave. It's like they're just such completely different. Like, I don't know.
Oh,
how
I'll
do you
say
even
Wicked
measure
is
that?
better than Conclave.
Well, yeah, okay, sure.
No, but
But then,
I mean,
yes, like comparing like The Substance, which is fantastic, and Nickel Boys, which is fantastic, but just like they're going for different things. They're done in completely different ways. Hyper-realism, like gritty, like it's just, I mean, it does, no awards show means anything, so.
no, it's like, I mean, the inclusion of The Substance was probably one of my, like, I saw that a few times in cinema last year. I loved it. It was like one of the best films I saw last year, and like, I think definitely tapped into something culturally.
Yes.
I am like happy that a genre film has made it to Best Picture, but yeah, it's like okay, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, it's a horror film. How do you stand that up against
I
a
think,
biopic, stand it up against a kind of sweeping historical epic like The Brutalist, stand that up against Anora? You know what I mean? Like, that's I would love to know how people vote on Best Picture.
Right.
I think if you're going to be able to have like like science fiction epic like Dune and a musical like Wicked, then it should be like every type of film gets a run in the Best Picture.
Oh,
like
sure.
you have to have one of everything. And it's annoying to me as someone who loves animation that it's so rare that an animated film breaks out of the animated category, because probably the best thing, definitely in the top 5 of things I saw last year, was Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul.
Oh.
Get it into the Best Picture. Put it up against Conclave.
Yeah, true. Let's really make a mockery of the whole thing. But yeah, you're right. Like but then that's always going to be, animation is tough, right? Because like if there's a Pixar film that was released in that year, it's almost certainly going to win. Like Inside Out 2, again with the Wicked sort of thing. Like Inside Out 2 is like the highest grossing Disney film of all time. Like. And putting a couple of little English lads made out of clay up against fucking the Disney machine. It's pretty brutal.
I
and
did
Wild
see they
Robot,
did,
it was actually a really good year for animation.
Yeah, the animation list is insane. Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, and The Wild Robot.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, we're rooting for Wallace and Gromit in that one, obviously.
We've got to be rooting for Wallace and Gromit, yeah.
They've been doing the work. They've been in this for decades. It's wonderful to see the boys recognised on this world stage.
Yes.
Jen, you were just saying off air that you were midway through writing a blog post about how it's a travesty that Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't nominated for Best Picture. So do you want to get into that a little bit?
Especially now with the Blake Lively. Far out, man. It's so funny. I re-downloaded TikTok because I'm doing a job at the moment and I gotta have it, and I'm like, oh fuck, like it's been so good not having it, because it is its own world and it's got its own language and its own rules, and watching like in the real world people being like, oh yeah, Blake Lively definitely got done over by this Justin Baldoni dude, and it seems pretty objectively bad that he's like hired this PR team to discredit her. But then just some of the most cooked takes on TikTok being like, wow, she really thinks she got him, but da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's like watching, like, TikTok should be banned, but not not because of Trump, but because, like, people, there's no, anyway, sorry, that's just a little tangent I went on.
The things that go around that are like, oh, are you hearing this? It's like, there's no source there. The source is just like one person who recorded a thing into camera, and the source ended up take off. Like,
the source is Justin Baldoni. So it's like people commenting on Justin Baldoni's PR campaign being like, it's not that bad because they're getting part of Justin Baldoni. Anyway, whatever. It's just been so interesting getting back into that whole thing, and also just like the are you guys very much on it or not really?
No,
I've been trying to post on it a bit more, but then I'm not. Yeah. I'm never checking it. When I got on there, my algorithm was like exclusively just Kyle and Jackie O clips. I'm like,
hell yeah,
I can't do. Lauren's like, no, you got to keep going through, and then I'm like, but
I
don't want to. I just don't have the. I don't have it in me.
Yeah. I like they have this thing where someone will be like, I'm looking at my husband play with our child, and this is the happiest I've ever been. And then the lamp looks a little weird, and that's it. And then all the comments are like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Other people being like, if you don't know what this means, look up lamp is being weird. And it's like, okay. And then like they're like, why do I have to look it up? And they're like, because that's what it means. And and the algorithm will suppress it. And then I found out it was like this woman had read a story about a guy who had talked about being in a coma and how he vividly remembered like living through like 10 years, like watching his son grow and then waking up out of a coma.
Oh.
But it's like that has been flattened into a 3-second video of someone just being like, and then the lamp looked weird.
Yeah.
And it's not even like a thriller thing. It's not like, oh, and then you swipe to the next story and she's going to tell you what that... It's just like baffling. It's hieroglyphics at this point.
Yeah. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre world. It was, I mean, the day when it looked like it was all done, And
Felt
then
good.
And then that just kind of tells you, like, any new thing that comes along, hey, let's take all of these with a grain of salt. It's not worth building entire careers around because something happens to them within a couple of years. And
I did see a meme where someone was like, it's like banning TikTok is like burning the Library of Alexandria.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
But that's how I feel if they got rid of podcasts.
yeah, totally. No, but this is valid. This is this is real work. Yeah, we're the first responders of content. We need to be here.
How will people know?
Yeah.
How will people know about Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Foul being nominated for an Academy Award? Truly, though, that is awesome. When you think about, I mean, it's the same as like Anora with Sean Baker. Like, he's such a great director. He's like such a singular guy. All his stuff is made like pretty lo-fi, fairly low budget. Like Wallace and Gromit, the start of it just being like one dude with some fucking clay ruining his life to make a little film about a man and his dog going to the moon to eat cheese. And now it's up for an award. It's like, yeah, that's like, you can get behind that, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting though, right? Because it's like, that's a Netflix film. Amelia Perez is a Netflix film. Like, they do have the marketing spend, I guess, the penetration to like actually get these films across the line, right? And I have seen this kind of discussion where it's like, well, you know, even if Amelia Perez isn't like a great film, at least it's like an auteur film that's like, you know, got a very specific, and like they're like, they couldn't get there with like Roma and the Cuarón films and like The Irishman, like all these other Netflix auteur led films. It's like, sure, but that's just money. Like, it's just like,
it is weird when you see
money.
When you see the photos of like Sunset Boulevard and there'll be like the big billboard that's like the for your consideration, and it really does just drive home like, oh yeah, this is just such a, it has like a global stage, sure, but it is just such a like one city patting its, you know what I mean, like just trying to like lobby for people like as they drive to work to vote for your film in the Oscar. It's like, oh yeah, this truly is such a like small insular thing, even though they are you know, even though it is, people all around the world talk about it, and it is in service of these films that you know, a lot of people around the world saw. It is just like, hey, just like walking down the street. Oh yeah, I should vote.
Well,
I have a vote in the Oscars.
The marketing of the film gets them an Oscar nomination. The Oscar nomination helps the marketing of the film, which drives up shareholder value, which I guess is like all of these studios, but it is just so like, I guess, transparently cynical in this case.
Oh, absolutely. And then, yes, I think the personal campaigns for like acting nominations and stuff have become, I think they've come to the forefront of like, online discourse in the past like 4 or 5 years, but like obviously have always been happening. And it's gross. Like you'll see the campaign for the award starting before the movie is out, and that is it's like, and it's just like, okay, this is not to do with the quality of the performance necessarily. This is to do with like PR companies who are like so dominant in that sphere and that industry, and all the like bonuses for actors based on award like all of this shit is tied in, and it's not connected to the quality of the film in any way.
And you're right, the way that they've like leveraged people as fans getting around that, like beyond just, I think that's, I mean, I've seen all the films, I think that's the best performance, I think that's the one that should win. But this thing where people are like online, like so invested in their favorite or just like the actor that they specifically like. And I remember seeing a couple of tweets when Deadpool and Wolverine was out, and you know, one of like a Marvel super fan account being like, yes, it's made $25 billion or whatever, and someone replying being like, why do you care? Like, why do you, like, all that you're championing just like a bunch of rich people getting richer? Like, why are you cheering this on like it's your sporting team that you used to barrack for with your grandpa when you were 3 years old? Like, why are you so personally invested in the financial returns of a Hollywood film? It doesn't make any sense.
I will say I am personally invested in the financial returns of Monkey Man. I know I keep bringing up but I'm like, I just want them to make back their production budget at this stage.
Yeah. You mean Better Man?
Better Man, yes. Oh no! I haven't seen Monkey Man.
You can't even get the fucking name right. Yeah.
The man whom is Monkey.
Well, that's a funny one because that's almost going the other direction where all the stuff I see about it on Twitter is just, Americans being like, who the fuck is this guy? And then people in turn to that going like, what? It's a biopic. You go and you learn about the person. Like, how much did you know about Oppenheimer before you saw that? And even that in a weird way I kind of love because it's like, this is all kind of maybe hopefully like helping and feeding getting the word out there in kind of an interesting way, and then you see people go see it and be like, God damn, that's a good goddamn movie.
Good ass movie.
Good ass movie about a fucking monkey that sings and dances.
Man Whom Is Monkey. Also Robbie Williams.
Yeah, did it get anything?
No, nothing.
Nothing. Damn.
Nada. Except I think it's got some nominations at ACTA Awards for like Best International Film, which I always love as well because ACTA is obviously the Australian thing. Yeah. So it's like, this movie that was shot here with Australian crew.
Well, he's giving a performance at the Actors. It's in like 2 weeks.
Oh, I wonder who's going to win Best Song.
Yeah, he was out here doing the junket for the film at like the end of December, and then he's like, it's always funny when you're like, does he live here now? Like, he just seems like he's just been here for months and months and months. Is he just going to get wheeled out at every shit Australian award ceremony? He's going to have to pop up at the Logies and the Arias.
I think it's like people's like kind of not albatross, right? But it's like, it's like Pink. She's forever she's forever going to have to perform in this country whether she likes it or not because she got big here first and then everywhere else.
Yeah, and it's Sheeran having to fly out here to play at Gensky's funeral just because he got a little Yeah.
And I feel like that's the thing. It's like you come here because you're like, well, it's an easy market to penetrate. If you really make it here, you can play some really big shows. And then it's like, oh, you're going to make it big here. You're making it big here forever.
Yeah. You have to.
Teat you gotta suckle.
Yeah, anytime we ring the bell, you got to get on that 24-hour flight and get your fucking ass over here.
Yeah, you want the funding? You live here for 3 years at least.
Practice your mid-air spinning, bitch.
Yeah,
because we're gonna. Is she still doing that? Is she still doing her her crazy like aerial acrobatics?
I've never been to a Pink. Have you guys ever been to a Pink show?
No.
We should do it. Put that on the list. FOMO Cinemas.
We all go see Pink.
We go see Pink live at FOMO Cinemas.
Yeah, like how they do the screenings of London West End plays at the cinema. They'll chuck up a Pink live show.
We'll throw the Funhouse DVD on. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get some filthy casuals Videodrone listeners down. It'll be a whole day.
One time I went to this football game in the Central Coast, and it was the pink ribbon round, right? So it was for the match was raising money for the Pink Ribbon Foundation, and so they got a Pink cover band to play it.
Yes.
And it rocks, dude.
Yeah.
It fucking rocked.
What
Central Coast on a Sunday afternoon, you've got a Pink cover band?
Like an A-League game? Or okay. Yeah, that makes sense why it was a Pink cover band.
But when you say cover band, was there one central performer who was pretending to be Pink as well in the midst of that, or is it just like a...
Yeah.
No, it was a band that plays covers of Pink songs. And they were all wearing, I guess, pink polo shirts.
Right.
Pink the colour, not the person.
Right.
Sure.
Not the icon.
There wasn't a lady up front pretending to be Pink, with the hair and all that shit?
No, there was a lady up front, but she was not embodying... It's like... with the monkey, right?
Yep.
The monkey represents Robbie Williams, but it's not a literal transposition of Robbie Williams into a cinematic format. I would say much the same way this woman at this A-League Central Coast Mariners versus Melbourne Victory game. She was channeling the spirit of Pink, rebellious, iconic, good at making a hook. But she was not being the character.
Well, I mean, this is the decision that you've got to make as the cover band, isn't it? And it also speaks to how strong the imagery is of the band that you're covering. Are we bothering to get up there in David Byrne's big oversized suit?
Right.
Or are we just letting our chops speak for themselves?
Yeah, are we letting the song speak?
Yeah. I think if you're an Oasis cover band, you got to be getting up there in costume.
You got to do the hats at least.
You got to do the hats. You got to do the... You got that. That's one where it's I think it's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
I think the best thing to do is to be like a Beatles cover band, but get up in Kiss makeup and really confuse the audience. That's high art, I feel like.
That's and that is truly letting the song speak, because you're like, what is going on otherwise? I recognize the songs, I don't recognize these people.
Yeah. I saw a great a Beatles tidbit not so much a tidbit, but like if the Beatles, the same amount of time elapsed, right? So if the Beatles had have debuted on Ed Sullivan in 2020, I think it was at the start of COVID, at the start of the pandemic,
sure.
Abbey Road would be coming out now.
Fuck.
Yeah, that's...
I think was it. It was to kind of, illustrate like they really got on the conveyor belt and just pumped them out.
Also, we old now.
Yeah, well, yeah. And also,
that's the other thing.
pandemic quite a long time ago.
All.
Yeah.
Feel old yet? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Remember COVID? This is him now.
Well, no, I just, I was saying this to my boyfriend yesterday. I was like, there's been, 3 presidencies since COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fucked, dude. That's fucked.
Yeah. Now, Jen, was
and
that
all of them great.
Was that statement just then, was that a hard launch?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I guess so. Fuck.
What an honour. What a Videodrone exclusive.
Well,
What an
speaking
honor.
of...
She's taken.
Everyone's switching off now.
Yeah.
You've
Sorry,
fucking
I'm
done
not
it.
fuckable anymore. And that's why people are tuning in.
Speaking of beautiful relationships and fucking, I
Hell
saw
yeah.
Anora 3 nights ago.
Yeah.
I fucking love this movie. Talking about the Oscar noms, I felt like until I'd seen Anora, I had nothing to root for, really.
Right.
I haven't seen The Brutalist yet. I'm sure I'll love that. It's absolutely the kind of pretentious bullshit that I love. But I was absolutely taken with Anora. I know, you guys have both seen it. I know, Tommy, that you're a big Sean Baker fan, as am I. What's your history with Sean Baker, Jen?
Love Sean Baker. Well, okay, actually, my history, I found out, goes longer with Sean Baker than I thought. Did you guys ever watch a television show called Greg the Bunny?
Oh,
It was like...
I know of it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I watched it, but I feel like we've talked about it before as
Friends.
yeah.
Real people. Yeah, so Greg the Bunny was this kind of late 2000s television show produced by Fox in the States. It had Sarah Silverman in it, and it was kind of like the backstage version of making a Sesame Street show if the Muppets were people, if they were independent.
Yeah.
Right,
And so the main character was a guy called Greg the Bunny, a little bunny rabbit Muppet, and then Sarah Silverman played a producer. I don't know, the cast was insane. I've got to look it up. But anyway.
Is it Seth Green? Am I imagining that?
Yeah, Seth Green was in it too.
Eugene Levy was in it, apparently. Yeah.
It only ran for 2-3 seasons, but it was one of those things where I remember hearing about it from a friend and then I don't think it ever aired on Australian TV, and ordering the DVD off eBay, and then getting a chip to mod my DVD player.
yeah,
So it was just it was one of those things. Anyway, I just found out recently that Sean Baker was the co-creator of Greg the Bunny, and so it started as a bunch of short films that he had directed, and then got bought by the Fox network to make it into a sitcom. Anyway, it's very good and very rude, which I feel is the through line of some of his work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But my favorite is Red Rocket. I loved Anora, but I feel Red Rocket is a real...
Yeah.
There's a grubbiness to all of his films that I feel he really nails, and it's it feels everything kind of feels stained and mildewy. And there's this kind of vast expanse of monotony that he films in a really beautiful way. And I would say the same for Anora as well. It's it's very glamorous, it's set in these strip clubs and Russian oligarchs and mansions and stuff, but really it's the monotony of capitalism, it's just these people are in a grind forever.
Yeah, I mean, even that house that the kid lives in, it's okay, yeah, it's really big and it is a luxury house, but it's kind of tacky and
It's so ugly, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
It's
view
so
is just
Fire
it's on the
top.
water, but it's kind of a yuck view. It's
Yeah.
he is. I mean, he kind of is almost a different side of the coin, especially in Red Rocket. he taps into a bit of almost like that Danny McBride character, just this fucking loser who thinks that he's just killing it and has the best life, and you zoom out and go, you are pathetic and your life sucks.
You're like 30-something having sex with like a teenager. Like it's kind of... And there's always these kind of elements of like transgression to like his stuff too, which it doesn't feel like he's like trying to be worthy and say something. Like he's never like, wow, poverty's bad, man. Like he's just like he's always just like, nah, like these are just, it just feels very real. Like it just feels like you can smell the places that he's shooting.
Totally.
He's interesting, isn't he, where he's done a lot of like Florida Project, which is about like these like people living in like, I guess, like poverty. Then like Tangerine, which is trans sex workers, and then he's like back doing sex work stuff again with Anora, well, and also Red Rocket. But he like, and especially like a lot of these being not male focused stories, and yet he does these things in a way where he manages to do it without, you can imagine a different version of this guy where it's like he comes across like a real tourist in that world, or he starts getting flack for being like, oh, you just drop in on this and it's real kind of like misery porn kind of stuff. He somehow manages to like do it with this like, without it seeming patronizing or without having any like big grandstanding sort of at the end. Like,
I think because you did briefly talk about Anora like a month ago, Tommy, and I remember talking about how he genuinely spends time in the communities that he is writing about, and he casts directly from those communities. Like a lot of the casts of like Tangerine, Florida Project, some of the supporting cast were like non-actors. They were people from those communities. Same with Red Rocket. And I think that's part of why it feels authentic, is because it mostly is like, it's not his personal experience, but he does do the work, I think, to really let these people's voices be, spoken through the characters on screen. And I feel like Red Rocket is the one that sort of, I feel like maybe broke through a bit more, and then it was the launch pad for Anora to get like real mainstream success. Because I think like Tangerine is very funny, but it feels so real and gritty and grimy, and like you are there on the street with those people that it's harder to maybe laugh as much. I don't know. Red Rocket is just like a pure balls out comedy though. I absolutely love it. But I think Anora is my favorite Sean Baker film now. I just thought it was a genuine masterpiece. And I don't think we should like, spoil any of the sort of latter part of the film, but I was left speechless, which I think is the intended impact of the closing sort of moments of the film. But I fucking love this movie.
We went and saw it at there was like a preview of it just before Christmas, and it was in Yarraville, so like a bit of a drive from us, and we like the whole drive back were talking about it, which is the mark of a real banger. It's so good.
I saw it at the Ritz Cinema in Sydney. They're doing like a 75mm print of it, so because it was shot on film. And then it is funny, like, because the whole thing of like, we've got to see it on film, but it's like things are shot in film, then scanned into 4K, and then when they want to do a film run, they have to print the 4K scan onto film again. So I was like, but I don't care, right? Because I'm like, well, this is how like the filmmaker intended this to be seen. This is how they captured it. So like, I don't mind, right? And I'll say there is something because like so much of Anora is set over the course of like a day going into night. The lighting of everything like really shines on like the film, like in a film screening. I don't know. But I saw it, I went by myself as like a little treat, and I walked out of it, and it really was one of the first few films in a little while that I felt like you're still in the world of. Do you get that feeling,
Absolutely.
when you walk out of a cinema and you're like, whoa, like I'm like seeing things in a different, I don't know, it just felt, and that's like what I remember, when I first went to the movies when I was a kid, and like walking out and being like, everything's the Matrix, like
I'm just like Fred Flintstone.
Man. It's because it has such a, it's set in like a heightened reality, but it's also like a heightened reality that some people live, like that window into this crazy, lavish, rich lifestyle that is obviously bred this kid to be completely self-centered and not think that there are consequences for anything, and just contrasting that with someone who every moment of their day is spent working to make sure that they can pay rent and survive, and the compromises that they are having to make to do that. Yeah, it's just, like we've seen a lot of stuff. I mean, Parasite was about the breakdown of class and the sort of contrasting very overtly, you know, lower, middle, and upper class. And I feel like this is such a, like, it's, if you just read the synopsis, it's like, okay, yeah, sex worker and a billionaire get together. That's going to say a lot about class. But I feel like the film itself does it pretty subtly. And the sort of, the sort of weaving of the threads of Anora into Vanya's life, and then, yeah, the way that they are both treated by the people around them. It's like, it's just, yeah, it's done so beautifully.
I think what it is that with a film like Anora, you would expect someone else to have like a monologue scene where she's like, you don't know what it's like getting up there every day.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
da-da-da. But it's like, no, she like, I think likes her life in many ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
she likes working a lot, which is like fortunate for her circumstances, but it's also like, it's everything that any other person, I feel like, or a worse script would like make overt. They're just like, no. Like we expect you to kind of pick up on that and just
Yeah, that was my big, that's kind of was, the big thing I felt about it right after seeing it was, it not being a thing at the start where you feel like, oh, she needs to be freed from this life. It kind of does leave it open, and she does kind of seem like, she's like, well, it's a job. I mean, I don't really mind doing, you know, it's like it just kind of leaves that completely open without it even really, like, needing to feel like, oh, yeah, she has to be saved. Like, thank God this guy came along, which, again, I think is part of that deft baker boy touch. That
baker boy added oh, what's this? Is a hot, steaming loaf of cinema gold.
He's been in there since 3 a.m. just cooking that up.
He's got flour all over his face. He's like wiping the sweat off, and he's putting that into pure cinema.
I just also love seeing the return of the guy who plays my favorite character in Tangerine, maybe in all cinema, the horny cab driver who picks up the sex worker thinking that she's trans and then gets really angry at her because she doesn't have a cock. A legend. I love that guy.
Yes,
he's
so
so
he
good.
plays Tauros in Anora. He's like the priest come like fixer, and I feel like, and I've seen a lot of sort of discussion about Anora where people are constantly being like, oh, these Russian gangsters. Like I saw a panel where the host referred to him as like a Russian gangster. It's like, no, they're just rich. They're just rich people. Yeah, like I feel like that's sort of an interesting, you know, comment and decision as well, to be like, no, they're just like rich oligarchs, like you said, Jen. Like, hey, who knows how they made their money, you know, in terms of ethics. I think they say they're like fashion moguls. You know, there's potentially a lot of ethical issues there, but also they're legitimate. And yeah, these poor guys, the two are the Armenian guys. There's Tauros, and I forget the other guy who gets hit in the nose and is fucked throughout the whole
Vanya?
film.
Vanya is the boyfriend.
The kid, yeah. And Igor is the bald guy.
And he's the one that got nominated, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's great in that.
Yeah.
He's my favorite character in it, I think.
I think, I mean, I love Annie. I think that's, a great character, and a really, like, especially the first sort of third of the film, I was like, man, this is a fucking daring performance. I would not have the balls to be doing this. And so I thought Mikey Madison was fantastic. But Yura something as Igor. Fuck, what a subtle performance. I thought he was, fantastic.
His name is Yura Borisov.
Yura Borisov.
Yeah.
Good shit,
Baker does scenes so well of that people just like rooms of people just yelling at each other. He does so well and so believable, and it's like kind of chaotic. People are just talking over each other. Feels very improvised, feels very believable, but you still kind of have your place in what's going on. You don't ever feel like you're completely just like, what is anyone saying? He just is so good at just like letting those moments just kind of, just go. Just people screaming at each other.
Yeah. You've seen Good Night, haven't you, Tommy? The Safdie brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that, Jen?
No, I really want to though.
It has that energy, that like one crazy night, pure insanity, escalating constantly, like frantic. I mean, Uncut Gems like kind of took it to the next level, but yeah, Good Night has a similar thing to Anora, where it's like
Good Time, I think.
Oh, Good Time?
Is this one with Robert Pattinson and the bleached tips?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like a 24-hour period where it just escalates constantly throughout. And I felt a lot of that same sort of anxiety. But kind of reveling in it as well in this. I thought Anora was just a super funny film as well.
The only criticism I've had from people I respect I've heard from people I respect of Anora is that you don't really know who she is as a person. And I'm like, and they're like, I wish you could know like anything about her other than her job. But I kind of think that that's the point.
Yeah.
That her life is her job. And like, that people are like, oh, it's not a well-rounded female character. And it's like, I don't need to know more. I know everything I know about this girl because like she wants to like just work and make her life stable. And if she finds an opportunity to find love within that works for her because she loves her job.
Again, I'm fine to fill in the gaps with that. It's like, we don't need an extra 10 minutes at the start of the film of her going to the supermarket and eating pasta at her. Like,
right.
Well, I think, it says it in these shots. Like, there's this incredible shot of her packing up to go to Vanya's house, and she's in like kind of like a fancy tracksuit getting picked up out the front of her house, and she's just got like a duffel bag and stuff, and it just kind of, and she's loading it into a beautiful, chauffeured car. It's like, that says that. That says exactly, her relationship. There's one scene, I think, with her sister, maybe. And it's very, like, nothing, kind of a bit of a... Which, again, I love the way Sean Baker explores, like, family dynamics, too.
Right.
It's not a lot of dialogue with that. It's not a lot of, like... Anora, I'm worried about you. Yeah. Listen, sis, I'll be fine. Like, it's not you. It's just like a very terse interaction that's pretty like naturalistic.
Very dismissive of each other, totally. Like, and you're right. Like, I don't think we need a 10-minute monologue or a montage of. This is where Anora was born. This is what her family was like.
Where's her parents? Whatever. Yeah.
So, It's like we get her character, and I think it's incredibly well rounded. It felt like a real person. Like we get it through her actions, through her interactions within the film.
Well, because it's also like how we meet people too, right? Like we don't meet people and go like, hey, like, tell me your relationship with your parents and family right now. What are your dreams and aspirations? It's like, no, like, most of the time we meet people through work, like, or we meet people through a very specific set of circumstances. So, like, and then, the picture kind of widens out from there. So, I don't know. Yeah, everything about it to me, I was like, yeah, this feels real to me. This feels very lived in,
When I was 8 years old, a boy paid me $5 to kiss him. And at that moment, a light bulb went off on my head, and I knew this is what I wanted to do.
We don't need our hands held with this film. We don't need to be condescended to. Like it does it in a subtle way. And hey, if you don't pick up on it, you're stupid.
Well, should we get into recapping episode 2 of season 2 of Severance?
Let's do it. It was called Goodbye. Wait, hello. What was it called? The first episode was Goodbye, Ms. Cobell.
Yeah.
The second episode was Hello, Ms. Whatever.
Selvig, right? Hello, Ms. Selvig? Yeah?
I'm looking it up right now. It was Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig, season 2, episode 2.
Right.
Goodbye, Mrs. Selvig.
It begins with Helena. She's back. She's... oh, yes. So it begins in the outside.
Yeah, so we were saying last week was all innies, and we were speculating, when are we getting some outie action? And as it turns out, very next episode.
That's right. Entire episode.
When are we getting some Outie action?
I love putting it in, don't get me wrong. But, you know, part of the thrill is at some point, it's got to come out.
How can you enjoy the in if you don't experience the out?
Yeah.
We're out this whole episode.
Yeah.
We're out!
And it's making me look forward to going back in.
Yeah. The anticipation is building.
Yeah.
So we're out. Helly is now Helena. She has kind of gone into damage control. But the first thing that is addressed is Ms. Cobell. Patricia Arquette's character has gone absolutely rogue last season. What was she doing with the baby? She was
pretending to be a lactation nurse.
That's right.
For Adam Scott's sister's character.
Yes. And was in there secretly monitoring Adam Scott, Mark S. Mark Scout, which I'd forgotten was his name.
Yep.
Just call him Mark Scott. We know. It's close enough. Who are you trying to fool? But, Ms. Cobell gets a real dressing down. It's dressing down dressed up as a promotion.
Yep.
Because she's like, well, look, I know things. I know what's going on here. I think that, I should be treated with a bit more respect and given an apology.
Yeah.
And,
this is in light of her, like, sexually stalking one of her employees for all of season 1.
Yes. But Helena, instead of actually, she says sorry. She says, we treated you poorly. You were looking out for the best interests of this company, and to reward you, we're going to give you a place on the Severance Advisory Council, which is it's really important. It's over there. It's away from everything.
It's
else.
a thing that we just came up with.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you're important.
And because we just came up with it, that means that we're able to come up with the fact that it outranks everything else. So it is actually really good.
Yeah.
What powers does it have? Doesn't matter. And so she's getting shunted to the side, basically. She's aware of that. She's not happy. But she says, like, well, I should be managing the severed floor. Like, that's where I should be if I'm so important. But she's getting pushed out.
Yep.
She's getting the ass.
Yeah.
She's getting the ass, basically. She's basically getting the ass.
I'm really enjoying getting to know Helena as a character, the Outie version of Helly R. And I'm really enjoying getting to see the differences between the innies and the outies. Like, this was a really fun episode. Again, even like you see it a little bit. There's a little hint of Adam Scott's character. I'm not going to say Mark South. Fuck off, eh? Like South or whatever his name is.
Scout,
It's
Scout.
Adam Scott.
It's Adam Scott. But the way their faces change, the way the voices subtly change, and Helena's posture, she goes from the first time, I was thinking about it, the first time we see her in season 1, she's like afraid on a table. She's like pretty vulnerable. The first time we see Helena is this very powerful, composed woman who like that incredible tracking shot through the outside of the building through the windows. Like, she is like the center command of this entire kind of project.
Yeah, I kind of had forgotten that from season 1, or maybe they hadn't really gone too deep in on it. Like, I knew that the reveal that she's in the family, but that she's not just like, the daughter or whatever who's doing this as like a PR thing, but she actually on the outside is helping run the show or running the show in a pretty significant way. I had kind of forgotten just how much kind of power she has on the outside.
Yeah. I don't think they really got into it as much, right? Because like, what kind of CEO would put themselves in that position?
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how much of it you see of her on the outside in season 1. It's basically just the big reveal when she's at that function, right?
Yeah, that she's the daughter of, and that she has volunteered herself to be a severed person.
Right.
But I think that we kind of see that she's pulling like a fair amount of strings, as much as one can in that dynamic, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. But she has the power to decide what happens to Patricia Arquette. So
Right. So I just thought I just loved getting to, like, she's going to be the villain of the season, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think we'll get to it by the end of the episode. She's going to be a complex villain, I feel like. I think she has feelings that don't necessarily align with the way she's always thought of herself. At least for what little we've seen. So yeah, her father comes in and he's pissed off. He's like, "What are you doing? You're letting down the family. You've got to deal with this." She makes, and I think, was this like intercut with Milchek heading out to speak to all the
fire
employees?
everyone. Yeah, like this is kind of peppered in. Yeah, they sort of mentioned that they've had to let them all go. So yeah, him turning up at Irving's house.
Inventing this story that the employees have gotten into, the 7 employees have gotten into some kind of fight.
Yeah.
And so then the Outies are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, like I didn't know." Like,
Irving's like, "If I broke something, I can pay for it."
Yeah.
He's like, "I have some cash upstairs." Does he say he's got $200? Like he mentions the amount of in cash that he has.
Irving, I love him so much.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Helena is concocting this bullshit story that she was drunk at the event and she was making a joke and it was in poor taste. While Milchek is going around, he says that Dylan got into a fight. He had assaulted a fellow employee because he has come out of the whole ordeal with like a bump on his head. So it's like, oh yeah, I can, this is a believable lie.
Yep.
Poor Irving gets let off. Milchek he's a fantastic villain. He's
so good
on his bike.
Yeah.
One thing I love in like a TV show or film or something is like someone in like a tight leather jacket where there's like a tense thing where they're sitting down talking to someone and then just every time they move you get that it's just like when there's silence and all you can hear is just like
squeaking
tight leather kind of shuffling around. It's so like there's something about it that just is so villainous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he it's like, as the viewer, we know it's so cruel, but he tells Irving, like, I actually quite respect your innie. We've come to develop quite the friendship. It's like, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, jumping ahead, but he does the same thing to Mark later on. He's like,
right,
you found love in there, It's like really beautiful. So then he turns up to Mark's sister's house where we see them kind of sitting around.
With my favourite character now, Ricken.
Yeah.
Who, when we see Ricken again at this point, he's like, "It's okay that the baby ruined my book launch."
Yeah.
Not that the baby was kidnapped by a psychopath woman. It's that the fuss around the baby eclipsed his book launch, and he's fine with that.
Yeah.
And I loved this, like, you see the end of season 1 and that cliffhanger really felt like, oh, well, how are they going to, one of those ones where you feel like they've really backed themselves into the corner because the cat is out of the bag.
Right.
But I loved this thing of like, no, in reality, they're sitting around and they're like, what did you mean by she's alive? Like, what do you think you were talking about? Like, do you think it was I guess it must have been the baby, right? Like, that's the only thing that makes sense.
We were all freaking out about the baby. The baby was missing and you found the baby. And his sister, Devon, I think her character name is like, but you were holding the photo of your dead wife. Like, don't you think that maybe that could have been what you were talking about?
Yeah.
And Adam Scott is very resistant to this. Obviously, it's like such a fucking point of trauma, and it's been something he's been refusing to deal with by going into the severed floor for so long now that he's emotionally closed off. There's no way that he's going to even consider that is a possibility. And then
he says, you weren't there. I had to identify the body after the crash. The body had been, burnt up. Like, how can you be saying this to me?
Yeah.
Which again,
is like,
fair enough.
Yeah.
There's a line in it that really jumped out, which is like, let's Occam razor this. You're probably talking about the baby, and like Occam's razor is like the most likely uncomplicated explanation is usually the right one. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, because none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
How could you be like, no, maybe it's that your innie was being tortured, like, and that actually your wife, who you've identified as being dead because you saw her body, is alive. Like, of course.
I like what does she say to him? The sister's like, I was really affected by her death as well. And he's like, if Ricken died, I would be sad, and I would be sad for you. But I wouldn't say I was affected by it. It's like,
God, that was a great scene. He's like, were you affected by it? Did your sheets smell like her for weeks after? Oh,
incredible.
Yeah,
I liked the lore and the high concept sci-fi of the first episode back, but I think that this made me realize I've always been more interested in the Outies, the real human drama. And them uncovering this conspiracy, from the outside in. I think has always been a bit more interesting. And so, Milchick turns up mid-conversation immediately after this event. And Devon does not like Milchick. Mark, I think, seemingly is just kind of keen to believe whatever so he can stop feeling emotions.
And they say to him... Milchick comes in and is like, that we have, he kind of explains, we have this thing on whatever floor where you can push a button and we can access you on the outside. And that happened, did your innie say anything? Mm-hmm. And they're all a
which
bit
is always going to be a red flag, right?
Yeah. It's like, should we tell this motherfucker what?
It's that feeling where you're like, did I accidentally send that to that person I was telling I was bitching about?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, did you get any crazy texts from me last night?
Yeah, it's like, I think my friend took my phone at some point. So
crazy. I don't know, man.
Just
you see Devon clearly being like, I don't think we should fucking tell this guy anything. And as you say, Mark's a bit more like, it all seems a bit weird, but just pretty happy to get back into it.
Yeah, I think that Mark is sort of initially he's like, I'm not going back to work because that's bizarre. I didn't know that this was a possibility that this could happen. Milchick's like, well, it's in the fine print of the contract that you signed.
Yeah,
you motherfucker.
I mean, and also just rich coming from an Apple show. Very rich to be like, it was in the user agreement. Was it?
Yeah.
You fucking dogs.
Yeah.
But yes, Milchick basically, and I think it becomes clearer by the end of the episode to the level that anything is clear, that Mark specifically is important to the project.
They need him. Because Milchick then later on comes and visits him at his house, and I think that's where he says, you fell in love in there, and offers him a raise. And before that you know what I loved? The point where he's realizes, all right, Mark's not going to do anything unless we get the whole gang back together. So he turns up at all of their houses with this just absolutely shithouse fruit basket,
which is
with the most rank looking pineapple, and then hard to even see what this being the big gambit.
But I love it as well because it fits so perfectly with his character's shit offerings from the parties during the first season in the seventh floor, where he's like, time to pick a song that you might like. Not even a song you might like, a genre. That's it. Bawdy funk, you want to put that on?
Yeah.
Here, you've got an egg bar. It's just always slightly wrong,
Yeah. It's it's real, it's the thought that counts. It's it's better than bringing nothing. Because also, meanwhile, we've seen, God damn it, Dylan. He's out in the real world. He's, he's got a family. He's got to get a job. He goes for an interview at the door factory.
Oh, that's one of the best scenes. I feel like it's one of my favorite scenes.
It's the most Millhouse's dad job. I work at the door factory making doors.
And at first you can't tell if he's just kind of saying whatever he can, right? He's I've always dreamed of being a door salesman, and they interview a guy who looks just like an older version of him.
It just looks the same.
Yeah.
Beautiful casting.
It's just since when? How old were you when you realized you wanted to be a guy who sells doors? And what's your favorite type of door? Oh.
You can see the real Monsters Inc. style thing behind them of the doors just kind of hanging there, kind of moving through shots.
But I love it too because it's I feel what's his, Travis? Is that the character's name? What's
who?
We just said it.
Dylan.
I don't know why I keep thinking his name's Travis. Anyway, Dylan, I love it, right? Because what it's really, it's he's trying to rewind the clock on this, and he's like, I'm just going to try and put this cat back in his bag, and I'm going to try and have the life I probably would have had if I never went severed, And so like the kind of mirroring of the older looking guy that looks the same, they're both of their postures. I've seen that actor before, the door salesman guy, and he's like,
I know why you've gotten confused. There's a guy that looks just like him that's in Severance.
oh, that's it. Yeah. The mirror scene. Anyway, but like I feel like that actor's kind of been instructed to like match tonally as well. Like, and so I just like that what they're doing is being like, this could have been your life if you hadn't done the Severance thing. And there's no way of ever going back, even if you wanted to.
Yes.
Yeah, I love this threading in of like any time a high concept thing does this, where you see this like little nugget of like, well, yeah, this is like practically how it would work in the real world, where he's going through his resume and they're like, oh, you worked at Lumen. And then at a certain point he has to go like, yeah, I mean, I was severed. So of course that experience in terms of you hiring me doesn't really count for anything because I don't know what I was doing in there. And then the thing where, of course, you're treated like there are people that are like, yeah, I think that's just really disgusting. You're treated like
I love how strongly people react in the world of the show.
Yeah.
Being like, I think it's disgusting and inhumane. And it's like, yeah, I mean, yes, of course, but also like I'm rooting for everyone here.
Yes. Like it's not like it's as with a lot of industries, like people don't often have a choice, and it feels like Mark is a different case. He's obviously done it out of a desire to separate himself from his trauma, but like maybe Dylan didn't have a choice. Maybe he's got to provide for his family, like he said. So it's he's a victim of this as much as anyone else. But yeah, fucking what a turn.
And then he's like, I loved him snapping at the wife on the phone. Like he's kind of dodging her calls. And he's like, hey, it was good news, I would have answered. And he answers like first thing he says to his wife, read the room. Just brutal. And so that like Milchek turning up with his shitty fruit basket comes at like just the right point, because he's like, well, I'm severed. I'm not gonna be able to do anything else.
It also hits harder too, because like the Audi would have had a memory of old mate. No, he wouldn't have had a memory, I guess, of Milchek interfering with the boy, the son. So when the contingency happens to Dylan. Why can't I remember his name? Anyway. Yes, and the son runs in at the end of season 1. Yeah, so that's even sadder, right? Because there's some knowledge as a family that this isn't just affecting Dylan; it's affecting the child. Like there's something wrong, you know?
Yeah. And so Irving on the outside, he is not happy. He similar to Mark, is very keen to be severed again, essentially. And Mark, at this point, for most of the episode, he's like, no, I'm not going back in there. What an insane thing to have happened. I didn't know that was even possible. But he really gets the fucking screws turned on him by Milchek, who's come back and is like, hey, like, on the inside, you're happy. Like, on the outside, your wife has died and you are in pain. On the inside,
you did this because you wanted some relief from it, and on the inside, that's your mission accomplished.
And so Mark has his arm twisted, and he goes back into fucking.
I loved this
hell.
as he's turning back up to the office. That guy from because they also show them assembling like the B squad of we saw in episode 1 of Alia Shawkat and
Bob Balaban's character getting fired.
The guy at the front, he's like, I broke a lease in Grand Rapids to be here for 3 fucking days of work.
So good. But there is that little nugget, right, that they quickly reassembled, as you said before, Ben. Like, this is centering more and more around Mark as a severed person. So that B squad that we see is quickly assembled to get him back into the severed floor or whatever.
Yep.
And we see Alia Shawkat's character in this episode. We don't quite know yet what she's going to be doing moving forward, but I'm like, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
More of her? Hell yeah. What a treat this season. That's going to be sick.
And we also, even though we saw a lot of Helly on the outside and got an idea of the ways in which she's calling the shots, we still don't really know. I think we were talking last episode about the way she was acting in episode 1, she's deliberately not telling them what she'd seen on the outside. And whether she's doing that because her innie feels ashamed, or has she been sent in as her outie to kind of keep an eye on things. Again, that's all sort of left. There's a great shot where it's like when you see, the old guy getting fired out the front, and Adam Scott goes into the lift, and then it kind of like does like a pan around where you see like all of the rest of them kind of turning up and putting their stuff in. Yeah, and I thought when we got to that bit of her, we'd see like there'd be like a little tell or a little reveal there, but no, it's played completely like puts her shit in the locker, gets in the elevator, and heads up.
Yeah, and I think there was a scene of Helena watching Helly on security camera. That scene of them, her kissing Adam Scott, and that look in her eyes of like, oh, could I be happier?
Yeah.
If I was an innie?
Yeah. And then final scene, right? Adam Scott goes back to his house after a day of work, and Patricia Arquette's there, and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck? What were you doing? Like, what does he say? He's like, I trusted you. I went into your house. I ate your shitty fucking cookies."
Yeah.
And she just basically does a runner.
Yeah, she's like, so they fucking got you back in, did they? He's like, yeah. But yeah, he wants to know what the hell is going on. There's this tense moment of silence. Because she's obviously, what's the word for like a disgruntled? She's a disgruntled ex-employee. Yeah. We think she's quit, right? She's fucking off.
Or she's at least resigned to her fate, That she's, even if she's in Lumen, she's not really in Lumen anymore. She's not in the 7th floor, which is where she wants to be.
Yeah. And she doesn't look, particularly pleased about it. And so I think there's that moment of tension of like, is she going to fess up? Is she going to give him something, even a clue, a morsel? But she remains the company woman. She fucking nearly runs him down and leaves him in absolute silence in the middle of the street. And that is the episode.
That's it.
I loved that showdown scene between her and Adam Scott's character, where it's just that moment of like, he's got his hands on her bonnet.
Yep.
She's at the wheel of the car. You really are like, maybe she'd run him down. Like, you don't know. Like, because the character has gone to such insane lengths. You've seen this. You're like, fuck. I mean, maybe. Like,
and we haven't even mentioned yet. Theme song was back.
Theme
music was back with new titles that are even more fucked up than in season 1. Love that.
That's
the best.
Messaged me last week to talk, because I said last week on the pod that I really loved the animation style, but I wasn't sure how to describe it. And I got a message from a listener named scrolling. I'm scrolling, ladies and gentlemen. I'm scrolling.
Was this from Pip? Yeah, yes.
Pip recommended a YouTube channel called VFX Artist Reacts, episode 100, about halfway through. They talk about the style of the Severance animations. It's by a guy called, I think it's called More Weg on Instagram. Anyway, but it's called like perspectiveless animation. So basically all objects stay the same because there's no perspective. Like, when you look at an object far away, it's smaller, but as you get closer to it, it becomes larger. The animation style in that is like kind of everything's flattened.
Right.
Everything has the same kind of visual weight to it. You zoom out, everything looks exactly the same.
Right. There's no like, depth
relative size to things and stuff.
It's kind of weird. It kind of looks like, it looks a bit AI, but if that AI effect was like made by a real person, you know what I mean? Like that kind of weird, it's slightly off,
uncanny,
but like,
kind of.
Yeah.
But
I just thought it was so interesting. It's so flat and like unsettling,
Yes, exactly. And then we've spoken about this before. I'm not one to pick up on or dive into the lore or do any off-site research. I'm happy to take what's in the show as it's given to me. But the severed heads out there have gone deep on those opening credits as well, because
true.
there's fucking babies and the old Kia guy and people are
It looks like Irv is in them in some of them too.
Yeah.
I want a video game
red
spin-off
jumpsuit.
set in the opening credits.
Could you imagine doing VR in that opening credits world and just getting 2 minutes into it and just vomiting?
Yeah.
A little tiny you is crawling out of your nostril.
Yeah.
No, okay, sorry, I got the animator's Instagram handle wrong. It's Extra Weg on Instagram, and he does a lot of those mouth opening into a thing, and
Sure.
I guess it's in the 60s, we were talking about the Beatles earlier, Sgt. Pepper's type of animation style, but just modernized.
Yeah, true. That real recursive and psychedelic and but yeah, it has the clinical coldness of an office, which is the most disturbing thing of all about it.
The spookiest thing.
Was there anything else we missed in this episode? I think we covered every single thing.
Yeah, I think that was the main thing they went over, was just the firing, their lives are, well, not all of them, but for Dylan kind of showing, and you get the sense that would be representative of all of them. It's all, well, it's I guess it does answer an audience question of why would you tolerate this? There are other jobs. You can go anywhere. But that's true of heaps of people in the real world who are unhappy with what they're doing.
Well, it's like the, to tie it back to earlier in the pod, it's like Anora, right? It's effectively the same as sex work in that they're offering their bodies for, capital,
Yeah.
And I guess just the line between them is way more distinct, whereas Anora is her work. They are not their work.
Yeah.
But the same kind of attitudes apply, right? Of oh, well, that's disgusting. It's inhumane. How could you do that? And that's the way people feel about sex workers too. So I don't know. It's just interesting that aren't we all just kind of loaning our bodies for the accumulation of capital?
That is such a good observation of that. Yeah, the door scene. It's literally a guy being how could you let that happen to your body? It's honestly, maybe it's too overt, but it's exactly that. That is the commentary, and it's well, I mean, if I'm gonna fucking do it somewhere, maybe do it in the place where I don't actually have to think about it afterwards.
Yeah.
At least I don't have to take that home with me, which is kind of the ideal job.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, bang a second ep.
Really good shit. I feel it's Devon, the sister character, becoming much more prominent because she obviously is much more suspicious of what's going on, and I really enjoy that. I really like the performance of that actor. She's great. She's very charismatic, and I think you said, Tommy, yeah, we're still not entirely sure which of Helena or Helly is back in the severed floor. I think people have speculated the elevator didn't ding, so
sure,
it's normal. It's
or
Outie,
certainly
Helena.
at the very least, what are her motivations for? If she is the innie and she's just choosing to not disclose what she saw. What are her motivations for that beyond, is she just embarrassed, or why would she not want to get in there and be hey, how fucking insane is this? Yeah.
Yeah, because they all know they are separate people from their Outies. What is the purpose for it? Yeah,
looking forward to seeing where it goes from here.
Yeah.
Speaking of going from here, goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Thank you, Jet.
Thanks, guys.
You can find us all on Instagram. Just look up our goddamn names and give this episode a share around. It's just the second one we've done of these, and obviously it's popping up in the Filthy Casuals feed, and we've been getting a lot of very positive feedback for one Genevieve Fricker.
Hey!
People are really enjoying Jen, as are Tommy and I, obviously. It's been a ball so far talking shit with you, Jen. We'll be back next week with a bunch of new movies. I think we're going to potentially talk about Queer, starring Daniel Craig. and episode 3 of season 2 of Severance. So thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.